Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 440. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, living the dream. It's 95 degrees in Minnesota. Not why I moved here, folks.
That's the dream.
I'm still alive. Yes.
Oh my God, you jumped into weather talk you jumped into the jump of the weather talk.
But I jumped right out, Charlie. I jumped right out.
It was like dipping your toe in the pool and it's molten lava. We're getting into a Midwestern heat wave, man. It's the end of August. We're gonna get the kick of it, but a month from now we'll just be like, going to high school football games. That's my one thing. I'm not a sports guy, but I love walking the 3 blocks to our high school here in East Grand Rapids and watch my East Grand Rapids Pioneers play football. I still enjoy that. That's something I actually look forward to every fall. Because it's fun.
I'm very excited for it this year, too, because my son's going to be in the marching band, because our school has not had a marching band in 18 years. So it's going to be very exciting to see. They didn't have one forever.
That's so crazy. That's a weird thing to not have. But you know what? Talk about weird things. I don't know if that's the case at your high school, but we don't have cheerleaders anymore. I noticed that in the last 20 years, like I lived in town 20 years ago, I'd come back and visit, walk up to a game with a friend, or like maybe I was in town with my girlfriend or something. We'd walk up, cheerleaders. Started going back to games, 10 years ago when my son was getting back into school. No cheerleaders. It's weird. Don't know why.
So the cheerocracy has been defeated.
Exactly. But just like your school not having a marching band, where at our school, like my friend Tammy, her son, who has since graduated, was in the marching band. It's a very big deal. I don't know. It's very weird.
And we have a huge high school. I think there's over 3,000 students in the high school.
No, that's small. Much bigger than East. Yeah, East is 1,000 kids. So yeah, it's weird. But anyway, marching bands, high school football. But what we really want to talk about is first of all our unequivocal support for the ongoing WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Day 119 of the writer strike, approximately, and then day 49 of the actor strike. We have always stand by our solidarity. I know there were some talks this week going on throughout this past week, but the needle has not moved. The boulder has not really.
It's the writers, it's the writers, not the actors yet.
Yeah, exactly. So that could be a longer one. So even if we get the writers back to work, they may finish writing things they were writing, or maybe go back to writing scripts. Then there's no way to produce it. So do please visit the entertainmentcommunityfund.org, which we did, and we're able as an organization to make a small donation to keep these folks going during really the struggle of their lives. Do keep in mind the vast majority. We were talking about this we had our fan club meeting for the Star Trek chapter last night. We're talking about most of these folks are not your Tom Cruises of the world. They're regular folks, working basically gig jobs here and there, and just trying to have health insurance, afford an apartment, make car payments, put food on the table, feed their families, feed themselves. So do anything that you can to support them, but always remember that while this may come to an end eventually, especially when, like you said, Bob Disney is talking about how, Disney corporations in flames, burning cash. We would of course like it to be sooner rather than later, so that these people can get back to their normal life. So again, entertainmentcommunity.org. I would say give until it hurts, but definitely be sure to give something. So on a warmer note, we always start the show off before we get into talking about this week's exciting cover by giving some love and respect to our hit squad of Patreon supporters. These are the wonderful folks that make it possible for us to make fun extra content. Like just before this, Todd and I recorded the latest episode of our comic book feature, The Spinner Rack. My wife April and I are going to record our Bad Trip to the Movies with Cardin's podcast here later today, talking about 2004's Catwoman, which I've never seen before, but it is famously horrible. I do a great show called The Facts of Geek Life this upcoming week with my partner Jonathan Sandacrow. I will record a segment about the first season of the 1966 Batman series. We just have a lot of fun, and it's all because of these people supporting us. Over on the Best Buds level, we have Jamie Prinky, and on the BFFs level, we have the spectacular nice family of Sean, Stella, and Henry, my dear friend Missy Merchant, and their wonderful pal Andy Milliken. And as we mentioned last week, frequent collaborator, friend of the show, Luke Lohr has joined us, also in the Patreon. So hopefully, Luke, you are enjoying that great new content. We look forward to seeing you back on the shows as well. You can visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Sign up on any tier level for a 1-week free trial. Check us out. And if you dig it, stick around some. We would love to have you enjoying that with us. So, Todd, what is going on? We've gone back to the well this week with a Marvel comic. It's been a while since we talked about a Marvel comic, and we got
it has been, and this one's an odd one because I saw the cover and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was not a big fan of the first gen of the X-Men, which essentially is the Heritage team you think of: Beast, Cyclops, Iceman, Marvel Girl, and also Angel. So this is January 1st, 1968. This is X-Men number 40. The cover says, "The X-Men meet Frankenstein. Nuff said." The market monster. And Charlie, when he said enough said, I don't think there's enough said, because Frankenstein showing up with the X-Men, I need to know.
Enough said that just sounds like one of those classic, like, I don't want to talk about it. Hey, Todd, you have a broken leg. Enough said.
Moving on,
moving on, glossing over and moving on. But the thing looking about this, they look like they're in like a submarine or something, because they got like those metal walls.
I was thinking like a ship. I was thinking like a cargo ship.
Yeah. Okay, there you go, cargo ship. But you've got, you're kind of halfway through on iconic looks for these X-Men characters, because you still got the Beast. He's not furry yet because it's the 60s. That happens in the 70s. He's wearing red and blue. They all have big belt buckles with an X on them.
All different costumes.
Where when they started, they had uniforms, But yes. Cyclops has his more iconic look. It's the blue suit with the yellow accents with the gloves. Iceman is just ice, even though he basically looks like Crystar. He's not like
he used to look like a snowman. That was like the original creation. He looked like a snowman. And now he just looks like a shoulders. I mean, she's just like rocking the shoulders thing. I don't know what's going on.
The most colorful and kind of inappropriately is Angel, because he's got red pants with what look like red suspenders over a yellow shirt, red cuffs, and a blue mask, and his bright blonde hair exposed. So he's the most garish of the original X-Men. So yeah, I appreciate uniforms. I'm a Star Trek guy. I'm a cosplayer. I like uniforms. There's nothing uniform about what's going on here. They're just like, we're all trying to stand out. And Beast, of course, because he's a beast, he has gigantic feet, doesn't have to wear shoes like the Hulk.
Yeah, he was acrobatic and had big feet. I mean, it was just kind of like, I guess that's kind of a mutation. I mean, he's just what they say about big feet, Charlie. That's not it. No, I don't know.
Very inappropriate. And then I think it's appropriate to read the letterbox here. Direct quote, and hopefully if you're looking at this on YouTube, you can read along.
Yeah, this is the credits.
Yeah, Smiling Stan Lee edits. The edifying enriches Roy Thomas - Don Heck, masterwork of Mounting Menace. Amelioratively inked by George Tuska. Alliteratively illustrated by Artie Simek. Lettered. So extraordinarily.
I don't know if they did this every issue, Charlie, but if they did, hats off that they still come up with these type of alliterations and things. But it is funny because I don't remember when Stan and Jack moved off of the X-Men. But this is issue 40. Yeah, and the title actually was canceled. Number 66 was the last issue of X-Men. Went on for reprints for almost 30 issues.
Wow. Yes, because I remember there was a big aberration because it was issue 94, which took place after GS X-Men #1, where we got the all-new X-Men with Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Storm into that whole group. And then the title actually started to take off because shortly thereafter, I think it was still Roy Thomas at that time, it was into the early 100s that you got Claremont and John Byrne, and then you got the real golden age of the X-Men for the next decade. But yeah, this was... I mean, those first 60-something issues of the X-Men were pretty well known for launching some characters that really have some staying power, like the Mimic, I think, and we had the Masters of Evil.
The Sentinels were launched in there. I mean, and I looked at it, and it's funny because the last creative team on the book before it was canceled was fantastic. The art was amazing,
but nobody's reading it. Clearly.
Absolutely, and I will give you just the this was not actually Frankenstein. It was aliens created a cyborg and sent it down to Earth. It just happened to look like Frankenstein.
It is, yeah, down to the tattered cloth at all. Well, thanks for spoiling it for us. You can no doubt find this on Marvel Unlimited if you would like to know more. But one person I know who was an avid comic reader back in 1968, even at a ripe old age of 60, well, this was published on her birthday. Madam Webb's 68th birthday is when this came out. I am, as I mentioned, talking about our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb, down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, 123 years young, still bringing us the latest scoops with that news feature. Let's go.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. It's going to be an exciting time, Madam Webb. It's your time to shine. Oh my goodness. It's going to be fall. It's going to be leaves, and it's going to be Madam Webb launching her line of pumpkin spice deodorant for the older set. Get it now, smell like a gourd, and you'll be loved forever.
That reminds me of that horrible pumpkin spice ladies sketch from SNL. No. Oh my gosh. So what do we got up here? We got, and I love your headline. It kind of gives it all away. We have the confluence of Snake Plissken, King Kong, and Godzilla in a show coming to Apple and revealing first images when, of course, we talk about Snake Plissken, we're actually in reference to, obviously, Kurt Russell. But a series called Monarch is going to, the legacy of monsters is going to be set in the same universe as the Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, the King of Monsters, and Godzilla versus Kong. I feel like I've seen 3 of the 4 of these. I feel like I've missed one.
I've seen them all.
I can't remember which one. And the upcoming sequel, Godzilla X. Oh, they're going X, not versus. So it's like X versus Sever or 2X Fast, X Furious. I don't know, was that one
versus
of those?
V? X versus V. X usually is a crossover, like team up. V is usually a versus. So yeah.
So it's so they're teaming up for a new empire.
I think so.
Spanning 3 generations, the series follows a thunderous battle between Godzilla and the Titans at leveled San Francisco and tracks 2 siblings following in their father's footsteps to uncover their family's connection to the secretive organization known as the Monarch, a la Hydra, a la Cobra, a la, what's the one from DC? Argus? No, that was S.H.I.E.L.D. What was this? What was there a secret society in DC Comics?
I mean, you had the infant. Oh God, it was the. Oh God, it's the anti-Justice League. It was the. Oh, I'm blanking on the name.
And on Earth. Earth,
I mean,
7 was. Yeah. Oh boy. You know, here's a good time. X us on Twitter. What the hell do they call it now? They're calling it. You can't tweet at somebody. Add us on. Yeah, add us on Zeet on X and let us know what we're missing out on. But so the big star, Army Officer Lee Shaw, played by Kurt Russell, and his son Wyatt Russell in 2 different time periods. I did see this headline yesterday from the 1950s and then 50 years later. So this is still really set in the time frame of that original 2014 film. So that's awesome. Series. Chris Black co-developed series with Matt Fraction, very famous comic book writer, and Matt Shakeman, who I've heard his name thrown around about. It's on the tip of my tongue here. What's something he's been involved in?
Oh, good question. I don't know. I cannot tell you.
I almost feel like his name was tossed out there with something, maybe one of those Star Trek movies that didn't get picked up. But so the series was ordered in 2022, and the Russells were cast in July. And as is the capper of every story we talk about, this is currently not being produced. But it'll be great if it is someday, because that actually sounds very exciting. Yeah. So it'll be on Apple. Yeah, it'll be on Apple. So another reason for me to renew my Apple when that comes around. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's I didn't expect this to be on Apple, quite honestly. I know we're getting a new Kong Godzilla film too, so it's kind of weird that we're doing this in TV, so budgets could be a constraint, how it looks. I do love the fact that people are like, well, this is how you do legacy casting, you just have to have an actor who has a young son who can look like him. Like, that doesn't happen very frequently.
Yeah, exactly. That's not
have random kids lying around and be like, hey, you be the new Luke, or Harrison Ford. What does his kids look like? Do we know? I mean, his kids, kids have got to be like 60.
He has a son who he's a painter or something. He's not in the business. business. So,
Well, Harrison Ford was a carpenter, Charlie.
well, there you go. He's a tradesman of some variety. So this looks very cool. I'm excited about this, and again, I'll tune in. I of course enjoyed the Wyatt Russell as John Walker in the Marvel parlance, the U.S. agent, who's a character who's kind of a favorite of mine. I enjoyed Falcon / Captain America and the Winter Soldier. That was super cool for me. So I will be happy to see this, and I like this career resurgence that Kurt Russell seems to be having post Guardians 2. Yeah, because it seems like he was kind of MIA for a very long time. And it's cool to see him back. I like it. So
I will give you, before we move on, Charlie, I'll give you a little bit about Matt Shackman. Funny thing, he was a child actor. He was in that spin-off of Growing Pains called Just the 10 of Us. He was also in The Facts of Life.
I know that show.
Strokes, Night Court, many other shows. Even Good Morning Miss Bliss which was the original Saved by the Bell. And he was also in Webster.
Which kid was he on the Good Morning Miss Bliss? Was he one of the main kids?
Because
it was just Zach and Screech, and then there were 2 or 3 other kids that didn't make the transition. Because remember, Good Morning Miss Bliss took place in Indiana. Saved by the Bell takes place in California. So Zach and Screech somehow moved together, or maybe Good Morning Miss Bliss wasn't canonical.
Yeah, they said if you can find it on Peacock, the Saved by the Bell reboot is actually really good. It's funny, it's self-deprecating, and Zach actually mentions like one day we just woke up, we were in Indiana, and next day we were in California. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, but nobody needs to know. Yeah, that's funny. If he's the kid, because there was a girl and a boy, and I wonder if he was the boy. I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird, but he is directing the Fantastic Four film, Charlie. So
there we go. Okay, I knew that.
He directed WandaVision.
Something high profile.
He directed an episode of The Boys, but he's got a really long history in TV direction.
Yeah,
a lot of good stuff. So
that's great. Well, this should be
great.
Good deal. All right, I'm going to grab the next one, and then the one after that is all yours because it's not of an interest of mine. But this seems super cool, and I was excited to see that this game will be available on PS4, which is a system that I have, that I'm glad that they're still making something that I can buy.
Oh, yeah.
But this is a what-if style game for The Walking Dead. Watched a trailer this morning, which showed some, it said, even had a tag at the bottom that says, this is early footage, may not reflect final product, blah, blah, blah. But you see some scenes from season 2 leading into season 3 of the Walking Dead series from AMC, which involved, the zombie apocalypse. You have a small town Georgia sheriff and his sheriff's deputy, who's also his best friend. That's Rick and Shane. And the way, if you've not seen it, it's been 10 years if you haven't seen it. I know Patrick is watching it right now, our friend at Hasbro, but I'm sure he's seen this part. As you go through the end of season 2, Shane kind of has a mental breakdown. He tries to kill Rick because essentially Shane is in love with Rick's wife, and Rick has to then, in self-defense, kill Shane. And Shane then turns into a walker, immediately comes back, and then Rick's young son Carl has to kill him a second time. This is very tragic. But the vignettes that you see within this trailer are reflective of scenes going through, and you see early in season 3 they discover an abandoned prison. Well, it's not really abandoned, it's full of walkers, but there's nobody living there for the most part. That becomes their refuge. But the captions go through and says, hey, what if, basically a what if. So they, in this final scene in a field where you see that Shane pulls a gun on Rick's back and Rick turns around, and then Rick has to move forward and knock the gun out of his hand, and he stabs Shane and kills him. Flip the script. Rick knocks the gun aside, but Shane then stabs Rick, and Rick is dead. And then basically you see Shane making Rick's big Rick-tatorship speech in the season finale of season 2. It's not a democracy. It's a Rick-tatorship. It's a Shane-tatorship. Shane Tater. I'm very interested to see, because Shane was really very unhinged. So I'd be very interested to see, particularly to see how that scene played out, because Carl was present. Did Shane have to kill Carl as well to keep his little mouth quiet? I don't know. I mean, and then you see the final flash, you see Rick come back as a walker and all this, and just so I'm very curious. Now I do own, and I think we've dabbled with that first Walking Dead Telltale game, was it? With they had
It was, yes.
it was from the perspective of a pre-teenage girl and kind of her, her journey, and it was one of those choose your own adventure deals, because I remember playing the first part of it, and she's sitting in the back of a police car or something, and it was like, or maybe she's with her dad or something. Now I'm drawing a blank, and it's like, do you choose to A, blah 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 blah, or you choose to do B, blah blah blah, and then it's just that the game goes in different directions. So this looks pretty sweet. What are and again, we just pulled up the trailer, so I don't have any details, but what are kind of some of the details from when we might see this?
So yeah, to your point, it's not the Telltale series, which is very acclaimed. The first season, Charlie.
Right.
Just to reset it for you, it was a male lead who was in the police car, very much like the Last of Us. He finds a girl and they form a relationship, and he essentially protect her. That first season is really the main I played. I heard it continued on with the story with the little girl later on. Clementine was her name. But that was an offshoot, more so tied to the comics than it was the TV series. Now this is specifically tied to the TV series, which is a unique take on it, which is great. I did notice the voice talent is not the same, so you can get the actors, but they have people playing them, which is not uncommon. As long as they can do a good enough version, that's probably okay. And it is seasons 1 through 4, so we're gonna get like some, what happened after this happens, we'll see. And I'm assuming, like a lot of the games, your choices will change where this goes. So it's not like there's not going to be one canonical end to this. So I like it. I hope the action's good. And I don't know if it's going to be more action focused, or it's going to be like Telltale, where it's more like decision focused and maybe there's some quick time events. But this is developed by Flux Games, who made the Cobra Kai games, which I enjoyed, but they are definitely beat 'em ups. They're like, it's like a little bit of story, plays around with that universe. It's basically playing along with all of those pieces, which I loved. And it was a beat 'em up game, because you've got Cobra Kai, you're going to beat people up. But this, I think this could be good, and it could be fun. That's why I included it. We normally don't talk about being like, but this could be like, it could get you in the door because you love the show so much.
I've always been looking for something, while it's not my jam, I could really see, and because What If on the Marvel side has always been one of my favorite comics. I really enjoyed that animated series that Disney Plus put out a couple of years ago. So who's to say? I do love being able to turn something on its ear. And then, that's always been kind of my favorite access point for DC Comics is their Elseworld stuff, like, Batman Gotham by Gaslight, or What If Batman Was a Vampire, or, my favorite was John Byrne's Superman Batman Generations, where it starts in the 1930s and you watch them age decade by decade, and what did that look like? You know what I mean? So, so I dig this. So I will, I'll happily take a crack at this when it comes along. Because I'd love to see it. I'd love to. Maybe I'll even come on your show and talk about playing it.
Ooh,
who knows?
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, and that was the golden age of The Walking Dead for me. So
you bet.
Back to that period of time will just bring people back to that touch point. So
very
very good.
Good deal.
Yeah. So next story. Yes, it's very much for me, but I don't know if you've got a history with Scott Pilgrim, Charlie.
It was funny because April and I watched both these trailers before I came down here today, and Scott Pilgrim was just a big miss for me. I don't even like the concept. A guy's fighting for girls' hand over these ex-boyfriend stuff, and I'm just like, this couldn't get more Gen X if you tried. It just didn't grab me. Doesn't mean I don't think other people don't have reasons to love it. I just thought the whole concept of it just kind of annoyed me, I guess, for lack of a better term, because you know what, if she really liked him, he wouldn't have to do that. And I think it's a bad message.
Well, it wasn't the fact that she was forcing him. It was the fact that he was going to get killed by these guys because they wanted her. He was just trying to defend himself.
And you know what? And you know what the best defense is? Go date some other girl. Take off. Go read a book. Well,
Charlie,
no, I'm teasing.
As you know, your heart has taken you places.
Yes. Well, exactly. Well, you see how that ended up for me. Scott Pilgrim learned a lesson.
You didn't have to worry about the ex-boyfriends.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Moving on, but Scott Pilgrim is a fan favorite. Started off as a comic book series in these little books, which was great because it was kind of a neat little collection, kind of tying into like a manga feel. Because manga, if you ever go to Barnes and Noble, you pick them up. They're a little different. They're just different size than a regular trade paperback, and it was also in black and white. This was Brian Lee O'Malley's way to get a book story out there about Scott Pilgrim, who's kind of a loser in Canada, who
kind of a loser in Canada.
Yep, kind of a loser in Canada, and he was a part of a band, but he just had no direction in life. And all of a sudden, he's dreaming and in his dream, he meets a girl. And you find out that this girl, this is where the book gets weird. You find out she's a delivery person, but she uses people's dreams to get to deliver the packages. But that's about where all that part goes. So it's like it's not leading anywhere. That's just a weird thing to tell you. This story's going to go different places. And then he meets Ramona Flowers, who he just falls in love with. And the book has very much anime tropes, the way that people react, the reactions, but it does follow the main the main purpose of the comic is Scott to have a relationship with Ramona. He's got to fight off 9 ex-boyfriends who are all weird and goofy and strange, and then the cast of characters are just goofy and strange. They have their band, and music's a big part of it too. Just got a cult following, and then we got the movie, which was very weird. Edgar Wright did the movie. Edgar Wright is fantastic, and he did a great job of duplicating all of the effects, all the sound, the feel. Great casting for all the characters with Michael Cera. Trying to remember which one. We've got
it was Mary.
We got Chris Evans as like the ex-boyfriends. Yeah. Jason Schwartzman.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead was Ramona Flowers, and now she is going to be Hera in Ahsoka next week.
Absolutely. So great cast. I mean, it's goofy and fun. Some heart-touching moments, and there's a video game based on it. So it's become this heritage thing, and they've reproduced the comics in color now. And the big news that we got is they're actually making an animated version of the comic series, and they brought back all the cast. Everybody's still involved with the
I thought that was pretty impressive, because the last bit of this trailer, they flash up a title card, basically a populating title card with all these names. I'm like, that's fantastic. Alison Pill is in there. She's from Picard, and I saw Mary Elizabeth Winstead is back. I assume Sarah is back as well. I mean, it all happened so fast I didn't get them all, but those were the couple names I grabbed. So,
it's great, and they're doing the voices. So this is a love letter. You wouldn't get these people back to do this type of project unless they really enjoyed those characters and they're training on it, working. And then Edgar Wright's coming back as a executive producer, because he's not an animated guy. He doesn't know how to do that. So he's hired some great people. It's on Netflix, and this is coming out November 17th, 2023.
Oh, wow.
8 episodes, which is great.
It's an actual thing that is going to be actual content that you can actually watch regardless, unless Netflix goes out of business between now and then.
Well, animated stuff is kind of handled differently than everything else, so we could get more and that would be the only good thing about the strike, is maybe people are going to go and do animated stuff and get more projects done on that template, which could be good to give them work when they're struggling. Like writers, give them work too. But we'll see. And I think this is capturing the 8 volumes, so we're getting 8 episodes, which is great. And they captured the look of the anime or the manga, which is great. So I'm excited about this. And if you are too, check it out. And if you're new to it, there's definitely many ways to get into it, because the movie's out there, the comics, and then obviously this. So very excited for this and the fans of it.
Interesting. All right, well, moving into another story. So Disney's trying to change things up a bit, and I'm kind of curious as to why, even though my explanation was, well, maybe they just, maybe Secret Invasion ruined Wednesdays. They can't drop content on Wednesdays anymore. But this upcoming week, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, tomorrow on Wednesday, no, excuse me, today, you're listening to this.
Same night. Actually, ours will come out in the morning, and Ahsoka will be out at night.
Exactly. We're talking about Ahsoka, now where pretty much all of Disney and Lucasfilm, and then also the Marvel stuff, has typically dropped on Wednesday nights / morning. So you get up first thing in the morning, the day, whatever it is, you watch it. Now the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka will stream today, August 22nd, 2023, if you're listening to this in real time, at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's funny, I'll be on the road, so I'll be in my hotel. I'll plug in my Roku, and I will watch these 2 episodes of Ahsoka before I hit the sheets. And then the following 6 episodes, so over the next month. 6 weeks. So there's gonna be 8 episodes. I thought it was 6. So I don't know, but anyway, either 6 or 8. This makes it sound like 6. We'll also come out on the, well, we will
canceled halfway through, Charlie. We don't know. Disney will sell it off. We'll never see it again.
So anyway, those will come out at that time. So it says right now, you don't really necessarily know why. This article goes on to say, this is a move by the streamer for expenses, expecting to watch shows in the dead of the night rather than prime time. Well, that's dumb. The whole purpose of streamers.
I think this is smart, Charlie, because I think people don't want to wake up at 3:00 in the morning or wait till it drops. People, I mean, Game of Thrones, it came out a certain time.
I
People wanted
have,
to watch it
yeah,
when it was fresh.
I have never gotten up at 3:00 in the morning to watch anything, but I agree with you.
No, you get up at 5 a.m. and watch it.
Well, I don't get up at 5 a.m. to watch it. I get up at 5 a.m. because my cat's like, meow. We get used to getting up at 5 a.m. But regardless, yeah, you're right. It does dip its toe back into a model of days of yours of must-see TV. And you're right. HBO did that for us for Game of Thrones. They did that for The Last of Us. They're like, I put it on our calendar. Boom, 10 p.m. Sunday night. We're watching the show. Or 9 p.m., whatever it was. But yeah, Ahsoka is incredibly sought after viewing. Everybody's been looking forward to this, particularly as we're heading into a content drought. But this is a full-blown revival of Star Wars Rebels, which is a great series that many of us enjoyed, that aired between 2014 and 2019 or 2020. I'm trying to remember. I know it came out in 2014, and it was one of, if not the very first Disney Star Wars projects, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this is very exciting. Yeah. So as I'd mentioned, you've got a cast including Rosario Dawson, reviving the titular role, Natasha Bordizzo as Sabine, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, as I had mentioned, is going to be Hera. The late Ray Stevenson is Balon Skoll, the villain, as well as a cast of some other folks, including Lars Mikkelsen as Grand Admiral Thrawn. So, and again, reprising the role from the animated series. So, very exciting. I love the last line of Ahsoka will launch exclusively on Disney Plus on August 23, crossed out 22 with 2-episode premiere.
Why not use why not repurpose an article, Charlie? Just let you know, I am doing my homework before Ahsoka launches. So
gotcha.
So I've looked at all the articles, like what episode should you watch before? So I've wrapped up Clone Wars because there were some episodes in there that I watched. Watching the Tales of the Jedi. I'm not watching the one where she's a baby. I could care less about when she's a baby.
Yeah, it was no good. Didn't care for it.
On. And then I'm gonna watch the Rebels pieces because I enjoyed the Rebels far more than Clone Wars.
I agree.
It's funny because I did finish those Clone Wars episodes, and I thought those were really good.
I
think there's far less good episodes of Clone Wars than great ones, and I'd rather watch the good ones.
Well, that last season, and again, we've talked about this extensively on Holocron. We won't be talking about this on Holocron. Mark, my partner, very strong convictions about not talking about this during the strike. I respect that. That's okay. Todd, you and I do feel free to move forward and talk about this, so we will in this context. But yeah, that last 3 or 4 episode arc
it was 3,
in Clone Wars, where we see where Ahsoka was when Order 66 dropped. We've talked about that on more than once, obviously, over in Holocron, as being, I think, some of the finest Star Wars programming that has existed, particularly in this postmodern age. That's really a classic, and I would, if I didn't have so much other stuff to watch between now and Tuesday, I'd probably go back and watch it myself, or I may after the fact. This is very exciting. Live action Star Wars has been kind of a mixed bag after Mando season 2. Mando season 3 was nobody that I know except the most diest of diehards really loved the Book of Boba Fett. Obi-Wan had its moments, but overall to me it was kind of a playing with fire canonically, and I'm a canon guy, and even if it wasn't playing with fire canonically, the story wasn't as strong as it could have been. This is, Todd, I know in particular what you really embrace is getting beyond Return of the Jedi, telling a great story, but not having it hamstringed by, we're going to step over this, we're going to step over that. Because you have that nice 30-year buffer between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, where a lot of different stuff could happen. For example, people say, how could Luke Skywalker, it was a missed opportunity that Luke didn't have, Mara Jade, and then he had a son. Well, in 30 years, how do you know he didn't have a wife and a kid and they both died, or they ran off, or whatever?
Never know.
A lot of stuff can happen in 30 years. So, why do you think Luke was, so sad in The Last Jedi? Probably because he lost more than just his School of Jedi stuff. He probably lost his wife and kid and dog and cat and loth cat and all kinds of stuff. It's a big mess. But anyway, yes, I'm very excited about this. And yeah, good for them locking onto the must-see model that HBO has really nailed so much. So
I think Disney Plus, when they originally launched, I think they did Fridays. So they changed because Wednesday wasn't the original date. They moved to Wednesday. starting with a certain show. I can't remember which one. So they've moved their release dates around. So yeah.
I mean, I can see, I can certainly see it from both ways. And I think all ways are good in their own way. The only thing that I'm not crazy about, and you and I have talked about this quite a bit, is a streamer that will drop everything at once, because you will get binge happy people that will binge a 6-episode or 10-episode something in a weekend, and then it never exists again. It's gone. Oh yeah, I watched all of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and it was fine, and then you just never.
Or
think
they'll
about
spoil
it.
And then
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
thanks for that.
Right.
I was going to watch it tomorrow when I don't have to work and have a job and support myself.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a lot easier to avoid spoilers a week at a time than it is, a day at a time. So this is cool. Tune in. And again, Todd, I know you and I will be talking about this probably next week on the show. So okay, to wrap it up, this is a gag headline that I was looking to pad our news segment a little bit, but I had to grab this for the headline itself. The Flash. Max reveals streaming premiere for, in quotes, the greatest superhero movie ever made. Subtext: the biggest cinematic failure of all time. Yes. Earlier today we brushed news that Flash concluded its box office run with a dismal $268 million worldwide, now ranking amongst the biggest superhero box office flops ever made. I thought it was literally the biggest box office failure of all time, $200 million. Is there anything bigger than that?
I don't know. Would have to do research. Obviously,
Yeah.
money and time have no reason anymore. So I'm sure like Cutthroat Island was apparently the biggest one for a long, long time. And
right. Yeah. In the 90s. Yeah.
yeah.
Rennie Harlan. And it kind of killed Gina Davis's career, that one.
Yeah. Because imagine the budget of Flash now, what it would have been, when Cutthroat Island came out in the 90s.
Yeah, half $500 million.
So if that was the biggest disaster for a long time, I'm guessing just because of inflation, it's pushed this up. So
right.
yeah, movies aren't getting movies apparently are not getting any cheaper, which makes every movie a huge risk for studios these days. Because
it's all the tilt of the ROI, what you get in versus what you get back.
Did they actually call it where did it say it was the greatest super movie? Is that somewhere?
It's in the headline. In quotes,
I know it's in the headline, but is it actually on HBO Max where they say that? I don't think. I don't understand this.
Yeah, I just don't know if they were being satirical, but it grabbed my attention. We've talked about this, but like I said, this is just my.
Because is that Tom Cruise? Is that the quote Tom Cruise gave it?
Oh God, you're right. Now, but you're right. I don't believe it's actually attributed in here.
No, I see nothing in here unless someone said it somewhere.
Yeah. Oh wait, okay, there we go. Even new DC CEO James Gunn got into the action, describing the movie, which has 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, as being amongst the greatest superheroes ever made, with an asterisk. It's not. The movie is terrible. Oh, we
let this thing die and just move on.
Yeah, we have cracked the Da Vinci Code. We will let it die because that is the end of the news, friends. But I thought I'd leave you with that. It's time to get out that Fuber app, that feeble Uber app. Got to get down to Scugtown, Nastyville. The Geek Easy awaits for us to talk about stuff we're enjoying. So let's go.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover band's playing, drinks are poured, and we are ready to get our nerd on. And I will start this week with a movie that I don't know how many people will see this movie, but I will say this as someone who did see this movie, Blue Beetle, I highly enjoyed it. And I think this movie, unfortunately, has the stink of bad DC movies.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt it.
People were writing this movie off like 6 months ago. So I'm like, with all of that gloom and doom, I don't know how you turn anything into success unless good word of mouth gets out about it and it changes people's minds. But it's August and people are not in prime movie scene. They're going to go to the cabin one more time. They're going to do these things. But beyond that, I don't really care how well it does. I care if it's good or bad. And I thought this movie was one of the better DC movies I've seen in some time. I think it captures what makes a superhero movie work and make it better than just the origin or the superpowers or the fight scenes. And that's capturing characters in a positive life, giving them something you root for within them. And I thought that's where this movie succeeded. Blue Beetle, the director is he's Latino, and this is a primarily almost all Latino cast except for Susan Sarandon shows up for the ride. and it really harnesses in on Mexican culture. It's all fully throughout this film. And this is focusing on Jaime Reyes, who is essentially the third version of Blue Beetle. This version of Blue Beetle launched in 2006 or 2007,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's been around a
very,
long
very
time.
recent. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly.
Comparatively, yeah.
And so this is really the first live action superhero film with a Latino character from a live action lens. We know Miles Morales. He's got a mom who's I think Dominican. To remember, she's
Yes,
Latina,
yes.
and her dad is African American, so mixed. But the heritage of that character is really a part of it too. Why it makes it so successful.
Right.
With Blue Beetle, same thing here. It's all about the family. We get the each of the family members are fun, loving, goofy, and George Lopez. He's amazing in this movie. I was worried he was going to bring George Lopez and just make it bad. He is great. He is having so much fun
Really?
in this, and everybody is having so much fun in this movie that I really appreciate. And that's what the heart of this movie, the characters, their relationships are really good. Where this movie stumbles, though, is in, I would say, more of the tropes, where we've kind of seen hero origins before. I wish they would have done a better job with the the Deus Machina of the Blue Beetle itself.
Yeah.
I wish they would have established that part a little bit better. I think Susan Sarandon, while I appreciate her, a good actress being in this movie, they didn't do her any favors with good scripting of her or her
Mhm.
motive. It was pretty
Yeah.
much very light.
Well, that's
And
like because you and I were talking about this yesterday. You brought it right back to thinking about the Meg 2, which I saw last week, is that we had just the paper thinnest of villains. You have a greedy corporate mucky muck and a female villain who literally just says, "I'm doing this for money because I want money. I like money, 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 money." And then you had the blonde lab tech with glasses that we thought was on our side. And then she takes her glasses off and she's a bad guy and she's evil and she's like, "I'll kill all of you because I like money." It sounds like it was maybe somewhat similar.
it's a little bit of that. Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Obadiah Stane in
There you go.
what's
Yeah,
the character she's
I,
like.
I
So
like
even Jeff
I like
Bridges
money
could-
and I like power. Yeah,
Exactly. So a little bit of that, but and then the main antagonist, can't remember what his name was. Basically, they brought in the OMAC term, which is this character thing from the late '60s, which is essentially it's a
I think I've
robotic.
heard of that.
Yeah, it's a long term. So I appreciate they bring in some of those things.
Yeah.
And then the main bad guy you see fighting Blue Beetle is he's not bad, and I think they redeem that character so he's not one note at the end, which I appreciate. So I think it was a really good. They did a good job bringing in Heritage Blue Beetle as well as part of the story, so covering generations of it, and it was fun. And I thought this movie. But once again, it still struggled a little bit in some spots, but overall, very pleased with it. I think it's well reviewed right now. I think it's 75% Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of people love it. And they notice that they notify you of the issues that it has. But I think it's Charlie. This is like in the Shazam, but better than Shazam territory for me because I think they do the villains better.
Yeah.
So that would put it in that lens. And I hope because this is not a spoiler. This has nothing to do with the DCU. They mention some characters, but there's nothing to say this character couldn't move.
Yeah, Batman got a mention. He said, "Oh, Batman, blah blah," and George
doesn't say like, "Oh, Ben
Batman's
Affleck is my
fascist."
favorite Batman."
Yeah. Oh yeah, come right up. Go out and buy Batman comics and action figures and other associated merchandise.
And there's no cameos from those characters, so this feels like you could take this character and take him there, and no one would care because if he's a good character. And Zolo, I'm trying to remember his last name. It's Miguel from Karate Kid. He was great in this. He was so energetic, so fun. So
that's awesome.
Other than that, I would say there's one mid credits thing which I think is decent. The last one's just dumb. It's like one of those ones they do at the end. I'm like, why did I stay for this? It was dumb.
Right.
But other than that, I would say if you want to see a movie with your family that's superheroes, I think this is a lot of fun.
That's cool.
And even if you're not, you want kids, but it'll be in HBO Max eventually too. So I would check it out there. Don't let the stink of DC get in the way of it. And I hope this character returns.
Nice. Good deal. Good deal. All right. And you are going to touch upon something that we will not be. We're kind of stretching a little bit over on Code 47.
Yeah, you guys need content for future
we
years.
need content. And then I was lucky enough to lucky/unlucky because we had a little break when we were at Star Trek Las Vegas. But April and I did record a little 35-minute blurb about our experience there, which is out now on the Code 47 feed if you want to check it out. But Strange New Worlds had its finale last week, the week before. It was last week. Week before
I
last.
think
2
it was the
weeks.
week before. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I was behind because I watched the musical the week after that, and then
Yeah.
I watched the finale. And Charlie, let me just tell you, I know you've seen these all, and you've had them, and you've been doing the PP dance, so excited about talking about this. But I think you're spot on. The season is fantastic. It builds
Superior.
on what was
Yeah,
great
they
and
nailed it.
makes it
Yeah.
even better. Some of the character additions, ADD, not ED, additions have been really great, especially with, I think it's out there. I don't think we have to worry about spoiling it. Well, I don't know. A certain character from the Heritage TOS is
Yes.
finally brought in, and I loved how they did it. I thought the character was great, or the actor playing the character was great. And this essentially,
And the character is Montgomery Scotty. Sorry.
yes.
But again, 2 weeks gone by. I figure either you're watching or you're not. But it's interesting. I think they nailed it. First Scottish character or actor to play the role. There's been 3. Jimmy Doohan is Canadian. Simon Pegg is an Englishman, and then this gentleman whose name is gonna escape me, but it's on the tip of my tongue.
Scotsman Jr.
He's a Scot. So yeah, he did great. He's portraying Lieutenant Scott, who is not part of the Enterprise crew, but it's interesting. This has gotten the gears shifting with me, and this is something that you're going to find a little bit later in the year when we get done talking about Lower Decks, which we're going to jump right into on Code 47. I'm going to posit to my team, I feel like we've got all the markers in place to basically reboot TOS. We have actors, we have actors. So and again, as a hypothetical, I'm going to say, and I would love to get feedback from this, from the social media community. So if you're listening to me, feel free. If you were to pick each of the 3 seasons of the original series, first season had 30 episodes. Second one was I think 24 and 24. The other 2, give me 10 that you would love to see remade with this new cast. Give me your 10 best and what would make them different, because we now have Kirk, Spock, Chapel, who was the 8th utility player of that, because she came in and out, but again wasn't really part of the regular cast, because your only actual build cast in the original series was Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. The rest of them were guests, were also starring. But now we have Scotty, and we just need a Sulu and a Chekhov and a McCoy, and we've got the whole gang. So
Yeah,
I would be curious.
Yeah. So I did want to tell you, Charlie, Chris Johns, who we've had on before. I mentioned that he's never gotten into it. I got him into Strange New Worlds. He's in. He's really enjoying it.
My barber, Rob, who is at Forest Hills Barber right here in Grand Rapids. It's a geek themed barbershop. His stuff is wall to wall Star Wars comics and stuff. But I went in there late last year when I was doing my first Strange New Worlds photo shoot with my cosplay friends. I said, give me the pike, make my hair tall, give me the pointy sideburns. And I kept going back, and he kept doing it and doing it. And he said, I finally watched your show. I finally sat down and watched your show, and I love it. Because like we've been talking about here, it's a great easy access point. While it's a lot of the nods and the winks that you get to the original series and the franchise, they've given some love to Enterprise in this. They're giving love to Lower Decks in this, because they had a whole episode about it. But it is still just easy viewing for a civilian, somebody who's not a Trekker. So and anyway, I know we've really steered this in an opposite direction because you're talking about the finale.
So we can get back to the actual episode at hand. I love the fact that they've elevated the Gorn to something we had no clue they would be that big of a threat.
Oh, absolutely not. He's not wearing this sparkly cocktail dress that you see in the original series.
Bring them back. Just put glittery eyes. Yeah.
And that Vasquez Rocks, that was a location that April and I visited when we went to LA back earlier this year. And it looks just like that, though it obviously 60 years removed, but whatever.
But I love it. I love that, there's things to tap in that did not get touched upon. They're bringing them back as a bigger threat, which I love that you can do is make, just don't go back to the Klingons again. Don't go back to the Romulans again. Right. Do something new. And this is great. Something we know, and they've elevated them as well. And I'm curious, and I know what I liked about this, and this is kind of spoilery for the last episode, is it ends on a cliffhanger. And I love that, because TNG used to do that. You're like, oh my God, what's going to happen next season?
People are likening this to the season 3 Best of Both Worlds cliffhanger with the Borg, which left them for a whole summer, knowing that 3 months later that they would get a conclusion. We are now left with over a year, likely
or more.
till we see a conclusion to this. So yeah, it left us with, the Enterprise besieged by Gorg vessels, stuff's blowing up sideways. Our away party got beamed up, but they were beamed up by the Gorn, so we don't know what's happening to them, with where or if they're alive, so yeah, it's just a lot of, and then we find that Captain Patel, who's Captain Kirk's or Captain Pike's girlfriend, is in fact, she's Ripley in Alien 3. Look at that. In Alien 3, she's infected with Gorn eggs, and they're trying to save her life. And it's just, there's a lot of moving parts. But yeah, it's like this is going to be like a long-awaited sequel. It could be like the end of Empire Strikes Back. You're like, we're going to wait. Hopefully, we're not waiting 3 years to see the end of this. So yeah, it was wild. They just really nailed it, and I'll be watching it again, obviously, when we're talking about it on the show. But because we were on the road, I actually just watched it on my laptop, so I'm looking forward to watching it again on a big screen. Because I watched our screener, just because I'm like, well, I can't wait, and plus, I just, it was too excited, I had to see it.
Yeah. So, Charlie, now that this is done from a live action perspective, because that's more in my wheelhouse, is Discovery coming next? Is that done? Is it confirmed going to launch, or is it delayed too?
Now it is completed, because I remember back in February on the cruise, Doug Jones was on the cruise with us. He actually got the show's going to end call one of those days, because it happened in the morning, and then he had a panel later in the day, and he let us all know that was actually in the news, had broken and all that kind of stuff. So there were some reshoots that happened earlier this year in Toronto, where they shoot the show, and as it's to be understood, the show is polished off and was potentially lined up for a February launch. But with strikes and stuff, does that get moved around? Does it happen later? Do you see the Paramount people push it out to later in the year because they want to have something, or do they just not want to have this great desert? So who knows? I just I'm not sure. But I think originally the plan was, February, basically within the same time frame of when we were seeing Picard, which dropped in February, and then it ran through early April ish. So that was the original plan. Well, we'll see if it holds out.
Yeah, we've been spoiled with so much Star Trek content, and I just worry about the strike. It's gonna derail some of that momentum, and because we do have the Academy show was
which is Poof, and then the Section 31 film with Michelle Yeoh. Right. Were two new projects that they were talking about. But yeah, Picard is over, Discovery is going to be over. Strange New Worlds and Lower
Prodigy's
Decks
dead.
Hopefully, Prodigy is in limbo. It has a second season. And so we were talking about this at the chapter meeting last night. It has a second season, which is great, but somebody has to buy it and put it on, and all these companies are going to start flagging with viewership declining and basically people not subscribing. So yeah, it's tough. We could be heading into essentially another dark age for Star Trek, which is unfortunate, but hopefully we will recover. We always have, as Trekkers. We always have. We've always bounced back.
This is not a new concept of maybe a gap, but I think we're in better hands now than we have been in the past when there has been a gap.
True. Oh, awesome. Okay, well, I don't have a ton this week because I don't know. The shows that we were watching kind of went poof, but I've really been digging on G.I. Joe lately. I don't know what sprung me back into it. I kind of go in phases, and this is a phase of mine right now. But I've always, I love the classic Marvel series written by Larry Hama. Ran 155 issues between 1982 and 1994. And IDW in the early 2000s, when they acquired the property, split those that original series into 15 volumes of essentially 10 issues, give or take a little bit. So I was like, man, I'm going to start reading these again. And I blasted through volumes 1 through 4. And I go, well, I ought to make sure I got this lined up. And I didn't remember if through Comixology Unlimited I had purchased them or I simply read them because I was there. But I went to look and I realized that they're not, the ones that I didn't already have set aside are gone. And I'm frantically searching and I'm Googling what happened to him. They said, well, the license expired. There was an article back from June that said, and I think we talked about it here, Skybound is picking them up. And in November, there's going to be a new Heritage #1 or an issue 301 that gets published. Larry Hama is back. And at this time, Skybound is going to re-engage with older content or whatever it is. But I got to the end of the 4th volume, which was, episode... I started into the 4th volume, number 39 or whatever, and then that was it. And then as I look, I have volumes 8, 9, and 16. So I get to I get to jump through those hoops. I must have purchased them at some point, but it's killing me. And so, and then when I look on eBay, even if I wanted to start over again with the print volumes, they're now 3, 4, 5, 10 times as much as they were. So I'm kind of screwed. I was in one of my local comic shops here locally, Argos Books, which was my comic shop since I was 10. New ownership in the last few years. They have, $2-3 bin. I picked up a couple of, and possibly actually one of the other titles, G.I. Joe Special Missions, which was their spinoff back in the late 80s. I picked up the first 2 issues and came home. I realized I had a trade paperback with the first 4 issues. So I didn't really get anywhere. I found one issue of basically their handbook guide, which is called the G.I. Joe Order of Battle. And then I found issue number 64. And I picked all those up. So I'm like, yeah, it's not really very helpful because I need anything beyond.
That's a Comic Con mission there for you.
I need anything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need anything issue 40 on. I need to find with the exception of I opened up volume 6 and it was, or volume 6 or volume 7, and it was started with issue 71 or something. So I have the 70s and the 80s, but I got to jump around. So I was going to hit some other comic shops and I was going to start scouring and see what turns up.
Yeah,
but
it's a weird one because Transformers are also part of that deal with Hasbro because they and then they went to Skybound, and Transformers in the same boat, like the IDW stuff. I don't think a lot of that stuff is ever coming over because it's branched off of other things. Yeah.
Well, it's like the Indiana Jones, the Marvel stuff. When I knew they were coming out with this next movie, I'm like, oh man, this is going to be my chance to snag that on digital. It was 34 issues. That was between 1982 and 1985. I was very excited about it, and it did not come back. Now, I'm fortunate that I did hobble together all 34 issues. I have them in print, but they're single issues. They're in a comic box on the bottom of a closet in my bedroom, and I never get them out. They're not accessible. I want, and enjoy stuff that's digital because I travel. I'm not going to lug comic books with me when I travel. I'm going to have my tablet and I'm sit and read them, the same way I read our stuff for Spinner Rack. So that kind of bums me out. So I'll put it out there to our fan community. If you're in a comic shop and you see an issue of Marvel G.I. Joe, please let me know because I might be interested in sending a couple of Quatloos to ship that to me because I would like to solidify a print library of those comics at some point, just to have them for all time. So other than that, I don't even know how we got into this, but my wife is a lifelong fan of Stephen King. So we were talking about something that led us into watching The Shining earlier this week. And then I turned on its sequel, which was Dr. Sleep, which came out in 2019. Ewan McGregor was the star, but also Rebecca Ferguson was the villain. And I forgot just what a great flick that was. Todd, did you ever watch that one?
No, I didn't. I probably should because I
enjoy
Stephen King stuff.
Yeah, I really like that. So that kind of led us down. In my Fandango Voodoo, I have a lot of little lists, and anytime I acquired something Stephen King, I kind of lumped them together. So we watched Cujo, which was a terrible. I don't know if it was a bad story, but it was a really poorly produced movie. But Dee Wallace was the star. The kid who played Jonathan on Who's the Boss was the kid. And there were a lot of the, hey, it's that guy, but it was one of those who was filmed in Canada. So it's a lot of like, hey, it's that guy from that Canadian thing. But we tuned into and watched for the first time in a long time, the Shawshank Redemption. And oh my God, what an amazing flick that is. It has there are no horror elements to it. It is a purely human-driven drama. It's obviously back in the late 1940s, is a banker in Portland, Maine, who is falsely accused of murdering his adulterous wife and her lover. He's sentenced to
What is this movie again? I've never heard of it before, Charlie.
No, is this a shocker to you from 1984? So
this is the movie that's always on TBS every day.
It's interesting. If you read the history of it, it was not a commercial success in the theaters, but TNT bought it, and then it's like the Blues Brothers. It's been on all the time. But anyway, goes prison, starts a friendship with a character played by Morgan Freeman, blah, blah, blah. Great flick. And yeah, I can't believe I've met anybody who's an adult who's not seen it. We also watched, now it's going to escape me. Oh, my other favorite, weirdly low, well, it looks kind of low budget at the time because a lot of it's CGI that doesn't translate. But Frank Darabont's version of The Mist is one of my favorite Stephen King movies. And it's not even necessarily great. And it's very heavy handed in some of the dialogue and things like, and a lot of the characters, but it's a lot of, if you enjoy Frank Darabont stuff, which he also made the Shawshank Redemption, you've got a lot of the same actors that you see in The Walking Dead. Jeffrey DeMunn, you got the actress who plays Andrea, you've got Sam Witwer is in it. You've got Bill Sadler is in it. So, but a lot of it is kind of super heavy handed, and it follows a lot of Frank Darabont kind of has his own book of tropes for dialogue and things like, I'm a redneck, but you're college educated, and I think you're an idiot, but the college educated guy is right, because then the kid gets killed by the alien or whatever. So it's a cool story. I like it if you haven't seen it. I own those, but I'm sure if you, again, visit, justwatch.tv, if you're looking for something on streaming, that's where you find it. But I dig that movie. I dig that one. So anyways, that's what we've been doing. Yeah, most of the shows we're watching have ended, so we don't have a lot of new stuff that's on our regular rotation. So looking for new stuff always. We're watching Community right now. April's never seen it, and we're getting into the later seasons where episodes that I think I haven't seen. Like we saw the one this morning that was the 8-bit video game one. I messaged you and John about it. It was the village of Hawkthorne or something. You know the one I'm talking about? It was after
Community I watched so long ago. I don't remember what I saw and what I didn't.
I'm in the exact same spot. I could have seen it, but I just don't remember. But anyway, that's fun. So yeah, Stephen King movies, they're a mixed bag. Some of them are TV movies, really poorly made, but some of them, like I said, Shawshank are enduring classics for all time. So
no Silver Bullet, Charlie?
That is another one that we have, because I bought like a Stephen King. You can buy these like bundled 8-packs or 6-packs. That was one of them. I know I've seen it. I don't have Maximum Overdrive, the truck with the Green Goblin face on it.
Yes, you can do the yes. Yeah. Yep.
That would be worth watching. All right. So anyway, well, that is the end of the Geekies. It's time to get out that air quantity. Whoa, my camera is I stepped on a cable. That's why. Whoops, sorry, YouTube viewers. Time to get out that Air Quantus app. It's time to get ourselves down to the land down under. Hologram Tina and the mutants await for our deliberations about the fall movie preview. Let's do it.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. The mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And this week, we're talking about the fall movie preview. When we talk about fall, it's really September through December. That's just the way it works, folks. We don't make up these rules with the seasons of movies and the seasons of the weather climate cycle. But with that, it's going to be a weird one, because a lot of these are going to be TBD, because they may go away. We don't know if the strike, the studios moving content out so they have something in 2024 to actually show. But we'll assume at this point these are all coming out. So at this point, we know things have already moved. We know like Craven's moved and things. So the list we've got has been updated like 2 weeks ago. So it should be fairly accurate to everything we do know is still confirmed. So Charlie, we'll do this a little tag team. We'll try to filter out anything that doesn't seem like it's in our wheelhouse and go from there. So
excellent.
Equalizer 3. This is the movie I just mentioned where I said I have to watch the first two. This is Denzel Washington essentially as a specialist who's really good at killing things. Anton Fuqua is the director. These movies are really beloved, and the latest trailer I saw looked really, really cool. So nice. I think I'm going to try to catch up on those movies so I can see this one in the theater.
Good deal. Oh, now I saw a trailer for this one, The Nun 2. I'm sure I saw The Nun 1. It says, I'm looking at where it says TBD. All the things say rating TBD, not release date TBD. So these actually are coming out. So this will be out on September 8th. Now it's got Bonnie Aaron's, not a name that I recognize, but Tacita Farmiga is the younger sister of the older one
Vera.
that we know, Vera Farmiga, who has been in The Conjuring. Not that we always mix up The Conjuring and that's The Conjuring. It's Ed and Lorraine Warren, and she's Lorraine Warren. So this is another jump scare. But again, are we missing the mark because this is September, early September? So are we jumping in too quickly to the October timeframe? But then again, as we get further down, you might simply find out that they can't jam it all into one. So they've got to kind of space it out. And if you're looking at, the last, third of the year where you're looking at, people are psyched up this kind of thing until you get to November 1st.
Yeah, I saw a trailer of this, and Bonnie Aaron's actually plays the nun lady, so she wears all the makeup and does it.
Right.
Yeah. And so if this is tied to The Conjuring, is there like a dead nun in their place where it gets out and kills people?
I don't think it's tied to The Conjuring, is it?
It's part of the Conjuring universe.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I just mentioned. So is Tacita Farmiga's character supposed to be related to Lorraine Warren? I wonder somehow, but she's a nun. She's a nun in the trailer, so I don't know.
He's a nun. Yes.
I don't know.
It is part of the Conjuring universe. It's a spin-off / prequel in the 5th installment of the Conjuring universe. It's a demon nun, an incarnation of Valak from the Conjuring 2, Charlie.
Oh, well, I was just remembered that, it all gets mixed in because there was that, and then there was the Curse of La Llorona or something. So, which I also thought was a nun movie because it was about, it all becomes a big nun related.
Yeah. La Llorona. I think that's tied to some other series.
I know this is a cause for Google.
Too much.
But anyway, moving on, we get our third film in the basically the modern day Poirot. You're basically your Murder on the Orient Express, starring Kenneth Branagh. Haunting in Venice on September 15th. Kelly Riley, who is Beth Dutton in Yellowstone, Todd's other favorite show, and a dramatic turn for Tina Fey, and Michelle Yeoh is also in it. Now, is this based upon one of the Agatha Christie novels, or are we moving forward to
Yes, they all are.
Okay.
Yep, no, they all are. There's like a billion
if
of
it
those
was originally
Poirot novels.
yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Poirot series that was on PBS, Masterpiece for
Right.
decades.
Masterpiece Theater.
Who's iconic. And so I'm glad they're doing these and getting this back in people. These are evergreen stories. They just continue to work well, continue the cast. But I have not seen any of these yet. I know.
What? Dude.
No, it's so weird because
they're so good though. They really are.
Yeah, I asked Chris, I'm like, no, I don't like him as Poirot, and I'm like, okay, I get it. So I will watch them on my own.
Oh, very good. Yes, I would recommend it. I would recommend it.
So a movie, Charlie, that I'm kind of interested in, and it's kind of fits the nerdy culture, and that's Dumb Money. It's about the GameStop stock. They call it the stonks, where basically GameStop was dying, and somebody decided to buy the stock when it was really low, and they elevated the price. It was essentially a lot of these firms were doing some crappy behavior to get the price really low and then take it over and essentially make a lot of money. So this is just ordinary folks who did this. They rigged the system. They ended up causing a lot of these firms to essentially go bankrupt because of the way they behave and the way they essentially bankrupt businesses. Yeah, you think of when somebody takes over like a Bed Bath and Beyond or something like that. Essentially, they just liquidate them and then they kill the companies. So they kind of so this is like more of like a biopic thing, but telling of how this happened.
Yeah.
And this is going to have Paul Dano is kind of like the lead. Seth Rogen's in this. It looks really fun. So I think this could be a
so it's like kind of a Wolf of Wall Street kind of, but maybe a little more satirical. I mean,
absolutely. It was the one with The Big Short. Think of like The Big Short, the type of film.
Okay, gotcha. That wasn't terribly satirical, but yeah. Well, speaking of keeping dumb in the title, we have Expendables, or basically one of the expendable movies.
I like that.
Now, this series has been around for maybe 15 years. I feel like it was like late aughts. We got the first one of these. So is this only the fourth one? Because I feel like there's been like 10 of them. And basically what the Expendables is that it's whoever's writing it, it's kind of a la the Fast and the Furious. It's a nonstop recycling of these action film icons from the 80s and 90s. So this series has had Bruce Willis in it, Harrison Ford. Obviously, Sly and Jason Statham are kind of the steady eddies, but you also have 50 Cent. I didn't realize he was a star of stuff.
Sure.
Now they're bringing back the guy who was Drago in Rocky IV. And they're making Megan Fox is in it, which the less Megan Fox for me, the better.
Why not?
But yeah, they're making jokes around. Why am I forgetting the name of the guy who played Drago? He was also He-Man. What is his name?
Dolph Lundgren.
They're making jokes around like, hey, I've got a sniper scope, but it's got a progressive lens in it so that so I can take my glasses off. So, I mean, but it's just, it's very explosion-y, dumb stuff, whatever it is. They'll have their audience for it.
Super Bros.
It is Super Smash Bros. Super
actually have a
Super Grandpa Bros.
Yeah, they have a video game, Charlie. It's called Super Bros, and it's absolutely
Okay.
hilarious because just like this, but it's got like Blade. It's got all of the like Arnold is Commando, and it's got all of these heroes, and they're just
Oh my
blank shit.
god! Oh, I'd love
It's
to, I'd,
great.
I'd love to take a crack at that.
It's
That's
so
awesome.
goofy looking. I'll have to send you a clip of it. It's
Oh,
hilarious. But
absolutely.
yeah, Expendables started in 2010. So
Oh, there we
it's
go.
another
Okay.
series. I have not seen one film of them.
I remember
Yeah.
back in 2010, it was my bachelor days. I'm like, it's Sunday. I'll go see a dumb movie, and I went and saw this, and I was like, mission accomplished.
Yeah, definitely. So Paw Patrol for the kids is out there. Teamed up with Saw X, so you get Saw Patrol X.
You know, it is
Yeah.
and it isn't. They don't actually come out on the same day, so it's kind of much ado about nothing. But whatever.
Aw, darn.
I know, what a
Parents are
bummer.
gonna miss out on that. Yeah,
I
but
know.
one movie that I'm very excited about is The Creator. That's that sci-fi film you see with
Oh
the AI
yeah,
people. Yeah, it's
we
got the
talked about
director
that.
of Rogue
Yeah,
One,
we talked
Gareth
about that
Edwards,
sometime back. Yeah.
and then John David Washington. I think it looks amazing. It's an original story, so that has me hyped because all we're getting is sequels and reboots. So I'm
You know,
excited for this.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair point. All right, well, that takes us into October. And you know, we're getting some of the, I would imagine, kind of horror flair. The first one that jumps out at me is a new film in the Exorcist series, which we talked about last week. The Exorcist, the Believer, with Ellen Burstyn reprising her role as the mother from the first film, and Leslie Odom Jr., who was in, I believe he was in the most recent Candyman, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a lot of different stuff. On October 13th. Heritage film or heritage property, which I don't know that we've seen. Is this a la Halloween, where we're getting like, there were a bunch of films in between, but we're just, you know what, we've wiped the decks clean all the way back to the first film, so it's this film and that film. I mean,
I believe so.
they're kind of going that
Yeah,
route.
because the second movie, I was just listening to a podcast and they talk about how bad it is. Richard Burton's in it. Ellen Burstyn decided not to be in that. Did not want anything to do with that. So it is kind of going back to the original, assuming nothing happened after that, and this is just re-engaging, which I appreciate at times because depending on how successful those films are. Yeah.
Right. Let's see what else we got here. Five Nights at Freddy. This is a favorite of my son's, as I remember from back in the day. Josh Hutcherson from The Hunger Games and some other stuff that I don't feel like I've seen him in a ton of stuff recently. He's kind of been
since Hunger Games. No.
Yeah. Kind of been on the gap, but that comes out just before Halloween, so it's on October 27. I assume that's an adaptation of. Now that's is it a video game or a comic? It's largely a video game, isn't it?
It's a video game, where basically Chuck E. Cheese trapped these demonic animatronics are trying to kill you, and it's highly successul. Became a meme. They have it's widely adapted elsewhere, but this should be a lot of fun, especially if it's done correctly with the right sense of humor. I think this one's coming out in theaters and on streaming at the same time, like a Paramount Plus or a Peacock thing.
Gotcha.
So might make an easy watch for us. Going from there. That's it for October.
Well, I was
really
gonna say,
lean.
the last one that I've seen trailers for is Priscilla. That is Sofia Coppola directed, but
I've heard that movie is supposed to be a dumpster fire.
I was going to say it's a spin-off of Elvis and Me, which is Priscilla Presley's story, which they made as a VH1 direct film back in the 90s. So I've seen it, and I won't be seeing it. But
is it by the same people who made the Meatloaf biopic, which I absolutely loved?
You know what's so funny that you bring that up is that I've always loved the faux music group, the Monkees, from the late 1960s.
Yes.
They had a TV show which ran for several seasons. In the year 2000, VH1 produced a biopic about their life story. I remembered watching it, and I was going through, like, a Monkey song popped up as I was listening to music in my car on Amazon Prime, and I thought, man, you know what? I love that show because it had this big resurgence in 1987. MTV started showing them, and I was 11 years old. Became a huge fan. Went back. I'm like, I would love to see the Monkees. Not on streaming, all discs out of print. That VH1 musical available on Prime. April and I sat and watched it. That's all that exists of the Monkees.
I think the Meatloaf might as well be. That movie was
or the one
to be found as well.
The one that they made about Ricky Nelson came out around the same time.
Funny.
I know, it's so weird. But anyway, all right, moving on to November. We have some actual content in November, it looks like.
Yes, this is going to be, once again, I think we're going to start getting to the TBD if it actually really happens. The big one in November, though, is Dune Part 2.
Dune.
I cannot wait for it.
Oh, yeah.
November 3rd. This
Looks
is going to
tight.
be fantastic. The cast, I believe this will wrap up this movie proper. I don't think there's a third.
Yeah.
So very exciting. I mean, this
That's
is the
awesome.
year of like part ones. Now we're getting a part two.
Right.
Charlie, and then this one as well. I don't know if it's if
Oh,
it's
right.
locked in concrete. The Marvels.
Yeah,
November 10th.
things are so iffy with Marvel these days because even your top dogs at Disney are saying, I think we've come too far too fast with Marvel. So are we going to start to draw it back? I mean, we have Loki coming up in October, and then this would be their other property or their other production that we're supposed to see before the end of the year.
Oh no, Echo. Don't forget Echo, Charlie.
I've already forgotten it. Yeah, Echo, which is going to be a one-day drop because they're like, let's get rid of this piece of shit.
Echo. I'm still alive. Watch me, please.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Val. Now the Marvels again. It looks cute. You're putting together the three characters who are associated with the Ms./Captain Marvel name: Brie Larson, Teyonah Parris, the young lady who's Kamala Khan, whose name I'm forgetting. Definitely looks like fun. Marvel needs a win after Secret Invasion like nobody's business.
Yeah, and especially when they show Sam Jackson in the trailer, I'm like, there's no buzz on showing him. So you might want to just move away from Sam Jackson.
Let's take a big step backward. So let's hope. A movie in November I feel absolutely no buzz around would be the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which rolls right off the tongue. Great title. This is telling the story of Donald Sutherland's character, President Snow, as a young man, and it's a love story and blur, blur, blur. And it's the young woman from the most recent Scream film, I think. She was one of the cast members. Yeah, Rachel
sure.
Zegler. Yeah, maybe. Tom Blyth is obviously the young version of Snow. Couldn't care less. I mean, but again, my question to me is, where's the audience for the Hunger Games? Do they have a rabid fan base that is still around? I'm reminded of Twilight. Remember how big Twilight was 15 years ago? Now you don't hear a mouse fart about it. It's dead. It's just there's not a fan base that I'm aware of. I could be completely wrong. At me on X at the C3 if I'm wrong. If you're a
I think you've got
Twilight
a group,
Hunger Games person,
I just don't know if there's anything there for them to, go into. I mean, that's the problem. It's like, I don't know if it's just a dead franchise. The author, she stopped making books. I think she did another series that was essentially through another character's eyes with the same events. And I don't think that works for a new.
Oh, you're talking about Stephanie Meyer in Twilight? Is that what you're talking
about? Yeah. I mean, the Hunger Game, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a book. So this is based on a book that came out in 2020. But to your point, I don't know, Charlie. I mean, maybe that there is a huge passionate fan base that will come out in droves. I liked those movies, but I never said, I'd like to know more about President Snow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do not see great things for this. So, I mean, looking over the rest of the month, any of the rest of the
I've got one for you, Charlie.
Oh, please.
That movie Thanksgiving. I found out a little bit more about this.
Oh, okay.
This is a horror film. Eli Roth is directing it. And it's going to be set during Thanksgiving. Patrick Dempsey's going to be in this, which should be a lot of fun. A horror film in November. Why not? I'm up for it. Although, why didn't it just shift? But it's Thanksgiving themed.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's in November. Who knows?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. All right. So is that we're getting into December then? So, okay. And again, a very good point that we might simply see a lot of this stuff go poof. But the first big thing that jumps out at me is Wonka. I know we talked about this trailer a few months ago with the irrepressible Chalamet and Olivia Colman. And this is focusing as a kind of a prequel, but it's very musical. It kind of is Greatest Showman kind of vibe. But was it really, I'm trying to remember the trailer. Was it very musically, like people are jumping around doing all that stuff?
Not really, but you did get the goofy moment with the Oompa Loompa who was gonna sing, and it cut out before that. Huge.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Very good. So that looks Yeah, I mean, that looks entertaining, especially coming out.
It's
It's
fun.
10 days before Christmas, so you're getting into that Christmas break vibe. I think this will be successful. I agree. Something that, and this is the death rattle of DC on the way out. Is
That's it,
yeah,
Charlie. It's the end
that
of
is
the DC universe.
where Blue Beetle was the penultimate. This is the nail in the coffin. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, December 20. So again, you're getting into the Christmas break vibe. But again, are these films really for kids? Jason Momoa and Yahya Abdul Mateen II, not ringing a bell.
He is, I believe he is Black Manta.
Oh, very good. So you've got the same hero and the same villain back for the second film. Okay,
I believe so. He's
I
coming
just
back,
I just remember very little about the first man. Ocean Master was Patrick Wilson. I don't know if I really buy him in the comic book movie, but it was, yeah. Aquaman was very much a CGI nightmare. Plus, you had Amber Heard in
yeah.
that.
Charlie, you had octopuses playing the drums. I mean, what's better than that?
Oh, like Under the Sea.
Exactly.
Well, there'll be no accusations, just friendly crustaceans under the sea.
Yeah, Jason Momoa's charm made that movie entertaining,
Right.
and elevated. It was essentially just an adventure film,
Right.
and that's all it was. I don't know if they can duplicate the charm of that movie, and I worry that they won't. And I think that's a good place to
Yeah.
say goodbye, DC. 2023, stamp it on the gravestone.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's Dunzo Bunzo. We're on Christmas Day. We are getting we're getting Oscar bait, which I think looks terrific. A new interpretation of The Color Purple. Taraji P. Henson and Halle Bailey, who is of course from The Little Mermaid. It's a classic tale. 1985 film from Steven Spielberg with Oprah Winfrey was what put this one on the map. I'm excited. I mean, I feel like it's something that we would go see without a doubt. But then we get
Charlie,
into the TBDs.
No. I want to go back to one that I am the most anticipated, because this could be a horrible dumpster fire or it could be cool. And that is Rebel Moon. This is Zack Snyder's, this was supposed to be his Star Wars film for Netflix.
It's Netflix, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard. I mean, Zack Snyder, if he does anything, his stuff looks good. The content and what's coming out of people's mouths, not always so much.
Wow,
the plot, not always so much.
And you know what? The parallels to Star Wars under George Lucas are very palpable, based on what you just described.
Absolutely.
Because look at
you're saying Zack Snyder is our generation's George Lucas.
He is our George Lucas. It is.
It's going on our title.
He didn't walk out with his $4 billion golden parachute, though. But you know what? Maybe someday.
He got his Netflix parachute, apparently.
I guess. But anyway, then we segue into, as you had mentioned, the TBD. So let's see if there's anything substantive on here.
Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley is getting a Netflix series.
Yeah, I feel like I heard about that. A Black Canary with or isn't Journey Smollett the guy who got canceled because of he had the fake people beat me up or something?
No,
or not the same guy.
This is essentially the character from the Harley Quinn. Remember the Harley Quinn and the blah 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 blah. This was who played Black Canary in that film. This is not happening. Charlie, this is not happening.
Well, this says Star Wars Rogue Squadron. Okay, I think this list is a mess. It doesn't mean anything.
Oh yeah, it's a hot list of things that I don't know who put this list together. It's not true,
right?
Except for Salem's Lot. I think that's still happening.
Gotcha. And then we get into and then we go all the way backwards. It takes us back to January.
Yeah.
So.
You want to talk about what happened already?
Yeah. Oh, I'm like, Megan is coming out again. Oh, it says January 2023. Yes. Oh my God.
I should probably watch it now.
You haven't watched it yet? It's delightful.
I know, I'm horrible.
It's delightful. Oh my goodness. Well, what do you think? What's your top grab for the season?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I hope Dune is fantastic, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I agree, and I need another watch of Dune to get fired up about that. But I will. I'm scrolling back through to just remind myself. Yeah, I think that would have to be it. It's not Aquaman.
It's a quiet year. Yeah,
it's not Aquaman, and the Marvels, if it comes out, I'm very excited to see that.
I hope it's good. I really do. I don't want it to be like, oh, everything in Marvel sucks now. I don't have that mindset. Yeah. I like Guardians of the Galaxy. I just hope it's an upswing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, that is the end of the show. Friends, as always, thank you for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
On the X, Twitter, whatever you call it, you can find me at Tia Oxtra. I have my fantasy football draft next week. Very excited about that. I'll be talking about that, asking for help and mental health support. And also, we'll be talking about maybe a little bit of Babylon 5 because of that new movie coming out. So I'm very excited about that.
Oh,
so
cool.
that's where I'm at.
Good deal. I would be interested to see that. And you can find me over on X Twitter at the C3. Go ahead and spell it out. My lovely wife, April, and I do run the USS Grand Petoskey, one of the biggest chapters of Starfleet, the international Star Trek fan club in the world. We are based here in West Michigan, but we have chapters all over Michigan. And actually, as regional coordinator, I also run Region 13, which includes Eastern Canada. If you're a Trekker within the sound of my voice, would like to meet Trekkers in your neighborhood, or would be interested in starting your own chapter, we specialize in that. So we'd love to help you. Visit us, Google us up, visit us at a website of that name or in socials thereabouts, and we can make that happen for you. Friends, once again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you, as always, that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.